Hi everybody, this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another old Hollywood scandal video. And first and foremost, let's give a congratulations to my mama, honey. Her channel, DIYW Denise, is fully monetized now. My mama put in the work by releasing videos every day. So mama, we are so proud of you, and if any of you guys have not checked out her channel yet, please click the link in the description. Go over there, check it out, and make sure y'all subscribe. Next, I want to give a shout out of thanks to Sandra, not only for the gift she bought me from my Amazon wish list, but also for the very thoughtful note that you attached to the gift. And last but not least, I have been given the permission to go ahead and let you know that Nova Spinks is doing just fine. It did take her a little while to get over the things that happened to her in her past. And if you guys want to learn more about her, be sure to click the link below to get her book off of Amazon. It is called The Spinks Jinx. Baby, the best book you'll probably ever read. Now let's get to this tea that I've been working on for months. Because as much as I love Berry Gordy, baby, he ain't worth a damn in this doggone story. I don't know how Raynoma survived without busting Berry upside his scooped up head. Let's go and get to this disclaimer so we can get to it. I do not know what's true or false. I just find gossip and tea from online, books, magazines, word of mouth, anywhere I can find it, ball it up and tell you a story, and put it in a video for you guys. Here we go. Now, Raynoma Mayberry was born on March the 8th, 1937 in Detroit, Michigan. Her mother's name was Lucille and her father's name was Ashby Mayberry. And along with Raynoma, the Mayberrys had several other children. One of these children was a sister to Raynoma by the name of Alice. Now, Raynoma and Alice were like this, and since they shared the same interest in music, they formed a music duo. By the time Raynoma was 17, the girls had actually hooked up with a musician by the name of Charles Lowes. And Charles Lowes told these girls that he had big contacts in the music industry. He basically told these girls that he could carry them right to stardom. Turns out, the only place Charles carried Raynoma was right to the hospital room to give birth to his sons. Charles and Raynoma did get married in order to try to make a family for their baby. But unfortunately, Charles found the pressure of providing for a full family to be too much. So he and Raynoma divorced. Now, even though Charles and Raynoma didn't work out, she and her sister continued to perform, and soon they were asked to be in a contest at Detroit's biggest nightclub, a club called the 20 Green. So Raynoma and Alice get on stage and they win the contest. And as soon as they win, someone walks up to Raynoma and tells her that Berry Gordy, this big time talent agent in the town, wants to audition her and Alice. And so Raynoma is giddy. She does not know Berry at this time, hadn't even seen him at this time, but she's heard from many people that Berry's family is wealthy. You know, he comes from money. She's heard that he's very suave, very debonair, and that he's an astute businessman. And so when it comes time to audition, Raynoma is making sure that she and Alice are looking their best. She wants everything to be perfect for the Mr. Enchanting Berry Gordy. Raynoma sitting up there doing all this. Imagine her surprise when Berry Gordy walked in the room looking like one of them dolls from Tales from the Hood. Berry's shirt was all wrinkled and worn. Collar was stretched out and dirt was caked up around the neck part. Even said the man's hair was half perm and then half frizzy. And then on the frizzy side, it was like matted down, stuck to the top of his head. So Raynoma is like, why he look like that? But as soon as Berry opened his mouth, all of that went straight out the window. Because Berry began to talk to them about his visions, about his dreams, and the intelligence and the passion and the drive that he displayed made Raynoma not only dismiss the way Berry was looking, she had also instantly developed a huge crush on him. And really, the scandal starts right after this moment, honey, because as soon as Raynoma started working with Berry, she found out very quick that everybody was lying about this man being rich. As a matter of fact, at this point in his life, Berry's only income was coming from him being a pimp. But please inform me, everybody watching this video, how you gonna be a pimp and you ain't got no car? Child, these folks talking about some Berry be sitting up there talking cash money, talking about some, I bet not catch none of my hoes taking a break. But then whenever he wanted to come catch them or demand his money, he would have to take the bus to get to where they were. So the girls weren't stupid, they just learned the bus schedule and just made sure that whenever the bus would come around that they would be on the track acting like they were working. And not only did Raynoma find out Berry was a bus riding pimp, She also found out that he didn't even have his own place to stay. Matter of fact, it was this right here that enabled Raynoma to make her very first move on Barry. And that is when she told Barry that he could move into her apartment with her and her son, since she and him were basically on the same mission. And this was just one of the things Raynoma did to try to get Barry to choose her. Some of the other stuff she was doing was kind of working herself to death. Baby Raynoma was doing her work as well as Barry. She would also sometimes take money that was meant for her bills and give it to Barry so he could do whatever he needed to do with it. Like, Raynoma was trying to do everything in her power to let Barry know that she was a down A chick. And baby, one time, her behind took it too far. Gossip claims one day while Barry was staying with her, he woke up one morning and he basically had tears running down his face. And when Raynoma asked him what was wrong, he was telling her that he was just depressed about the money situation. You know, even though he did his bus pimping and even though Raynoma would give him her money, like, he still didn't have enough money to send his artist for a studio time. Well, baby, how about when Barry leaves, Raynoma get to pacing around the house and went to her bedroom and put on a skin-tight shirt, then put on a little short skirt and caught the bus over to where Barry's hoes were. Honey, this girl who ain't never done nothing like this in her life walks up to Barry's so-called bottom bitch and tells her, hey, the next John you got, send him my way because I got to make some money. And honey, not even 10 minutes later, this 50-year-old big fat white man showed up and Raynoma took him to the back and swallowed his sack. And y'all, if this girl was willing to do all of this for Berry Gordy, who wasn't her man yet, baby hadn't even touched her yet, hadn't kissed her. As a matter of fact, she had only known Barry for maybe about 2 months at this time. Like, if she was willing to do all of this for him already, you can only imagine the hoops of fools she was willing to jump through when she and Barry finally got together. Because gossip claims after she had been knowing Barry for about 3 months, they finally did become a couple. And then about 3 months after that, Raynoma found herself pregnant with Barry's child. And the whole time Raynoma was pregnant, she worked harder than she did when she wasn't pregnant. Because see, Barry was telling her that the quicker that they can get all of this done, the sooner that they could start their first label, which he wanted to name Tamla Records. As a matter of fact, when they were just a couple of $1,000s short for what they needed to start Tamla Records, Raynoma went to her parents and asked for a loan so she could get all of the money that Barry would need. Well, imagine homegirl's surprise when Barry came home with papers and Raynoma's name wasn't on the deed. So Raynoma is like, Barry, wait, where's my name? Listen, Ray, I was gonna put your name on there, but when I did, it looked like it was a mom and pop's organization, and that's just not my dream. I want to be Berry Gordy, the businessman. It just looks so much more smooth and sleek and professional if it just has my name. But baby, you ain't got to worry, you're my girl. I'ma always take care of you. And Raynoma didn't feel this explanation 100%, but she was so wrapped up in Barry's love and she was pregnant with this child that she just accepted it. And when Barry soon bought them a 2-story house to raise their family in, this also helped to calm Raynoma's nerve. Because she felt like, why would this man do all of this if he doesn't want a future with me? So it helped her see a little bit more clearly, but if Raynoma knew the storm that was brewing, baby, her behind would have been more weary. Rumor has it one of the first nights they were in the house, Raynoma and Barry were laying in the bed, and then Barry suddenly jumped up and was like, oh, Raynoma, I'll be right back. I forgot to take the trash out. Well, honey, Barry takes the trash out, and 10 minutes later, he's not back. 15 minutes later, he's not back. But Raynoma doesn't worry about it much because she's like, okay, well, maybe he's out there talking to our neighbor, and she ends up just going to sleep. Well, the very next night, Raynoma and Barry are laying in the bed again, and once again, Barry jumps up. Ooh, hey, I'll be back. I gotta take the trash out. And so Raynoma is like, well, Barry, we don't even have a lot of trash from today. Like, it can wait. You can take it out tomorrow night. No, Raynoma, I gotta take it out tonight because I also use this time to think and to decompress. That's why it took me so long to come back in the house last night. Well, honey, on the 3rd night in a row, Barry jumps up in the middle of them laying in bed, claiming he has to go take this trash trash out. And so this time when Barry leaves, she waits about 3 or 4 minutes, and then she gets up and goes and peeks out of the front door. And she sees Barry walking down the road on his way to the corner store. And when he gets to the corner store, instead of going inside, he actually goes to the payphone. And honey, Barry is on the phone having a good conversation, honey, laughing, slapping his knee, rubbing his belly, everything. So when Barry comes in, Raynoma is like, "Where you go, Barry?" "What you mean? I told you. I was taking out the trash." And Raynoma is like, "No, that ain't all you did, because I saw you go down and use that payphone. Now, who was you talking to? One of these new girls that we done signed to the record label?" I knew this mess right here was coming. For your information, ain't nobody cheating on you, Raynoma. I can't deal with a woman who won't trust me. As a matter of fact, I think I'm finna go. And just like that, he had gaslit and flipped it on Raynoma. And now her heart is beating out of her chest, baby. She got tears coming down her eyes. She's sitting up there, "Barry, wait, please. Please don't go, Barry. I'm sorry. I won't question you again, baby. I trust you. Please don't go. Don't leave me." "I mean, I'll stay. You know, I'll stay. And I'll even forgive you for this mess up. But one thing I got to say, the relationship will never be the same from here. You messed that up." And with this, Barry had paved his way to do whatever he wanted to do in the future, because gossip claims that next year, Raynoma didn't question a thing. In fact, she tried her very best to stay on Barry's good side. But once their son was born, there was something that was bothering Raynoma. She wondered when Barry was going to marry her. So one day, she finally gathers her nerves and she goes up to Barry and she's like, "Barry, you know, I don't want to bother you or make you mad, but when are we going to get married? We're living together. Also, I've had your baby." And Barry, just to tell you the truth, I wasn't trying to be an unmarried mother with 2 children. I thought we were going to be a family. Ooh-wee, you just selfish. I kid you not, Raynoma, you are a selfish woman. I don't even know why I'm with you. I'm working on Motown. My mind is all over the place. And you want to come up here and talk to me about a marriage, wedding, and stuff like that. I got too much to worry about. Can you wait? Here go Raynoma once again. "Okay, I'm sorry, Barry. I didn't mean to upset you. I was just wondering because I love you and you said you loved me too. So I was just wondering, well, just give me a minute." And so Raynoma did give Barry a minute, a long minute. Some rumors claim a whole 1.5 years passed and Barry ain't say nothing about marrying Raynoma. And Raynoma tried to hold her peace and just wait on Barry, but then her parents started to wonder what was going on, especially her father. And so when the year 1960 came and Barry finally agreed to marry Raynoma, she was over the moon. She started calling around, making the preparations for their wedding. She wanted it to be the wedding of the century, honey. But Barry wouldn't even let her have that. He told her that either they can go get married at the courthouse or they wasn't gonna get married at all. And of course, Raynoma was heartbroken about this, but she didn't want Barry to change his mind about marrying her, so she agreed. So the story says it is a beautiful spring day in the year 1960, and it's Barry, Raynoma, and both sets of their parents sitting in the back of a limousine. They are headed to go to the courthouse so Barry and Raynoma can get married. Everybody is in the back of the limousine just chatting. You know, the parents are telling Barry and Raynoma what to look out for when they become married. And while all of this is happening, Barry is just sitting there like this. And of course, Raynoma is embarrassed by this behavior, so she just silently hopes and prays that Barry will perk up before their parents start to question and ask him what's wrong. Well, honey, this dude did much more than perk up. Barry yelled out, "Stop the car. I can't marry her. Raynoma, I'm sorry. I can't marry you." In front of Raynoma's parents, in front of the driver, in front of the Lord, honey, Raynoma was mortified. She was like, Barry, what do you mean?" "I said what I said. I can't marry you. To both of our parents, I'm sorry for even having you come out for this, but I just can't do this. I'm just not ready." Oh my gosh. Raynoma's daddy was furious. And y'all, it was a devastating ride back home for everybody involved. And what made it even worse is that by the time Raynoma and Barry got home, all of the Motown artists were there with champagne, confetti, streamers, all kind of signs that said, "Congratulations, just married." Raynoma couldn't do nothing but hold her head like this and run upstairs to the bedroom. And this right here would have showed most women that the man don't want you, so just leave him alone. But for some some reason with Raynoma, she just didn't get the hint. So gossip claims after she ignored Barry the whole rest of that day, he walked into the bedroom later on that night and was like, you sitting up there wanting to invite our parents? I don't want to do all that. See, that was the problem anyway. Let's go tomorrow and get married. I just wanted to be me and you. And the very next day, she and Barry went down to the courthouse and they did end up getting married. After the wedding was over, Raynoma put on this beautiful lingerie set that she had bought just for their wedding night. And Barry Gordy came right in that doggone room giving Raynoma the sexiest bedroom eyes while he took off his jacket and his shirt. By the time he was down to his boxers, Raynoma was soaking wet, honey. Just for this man to reach into his closet and pull out another pair of pants and a shirt, put his shoes back on, and take the keys and get ready to head out the door. Raynoma is sitting there watching this happen, and she's like, Barry, where are you going? This is our wedding night. We're supposed to spend time. Who cares if it's our wedding night? I don't care about that, Raynoma. This is just another day, and I'm off to handle business just like I always handle business every other night. And just like that, Barry Gordy was out the door. Raynoma couldn't do nothing but cry, honey, and look down at the ring on her finger that she bought and wonder what her new husband was going to get into that night and just when he would come back home with her. And I tell you when he came back home to her. 11 o'clock that next morning. Baby, the folks say Raynoma was so doggone hurt that when he walked in the bedroom, she told him straight out, I want a divorce. You know, I thought that you loved me. I guess I thought wrong. I want a divorce. God dang, what is your problem now? It's always something with you. I ain't never seen a woman that would do all these little tricks of the trade to get what she want and then get it and then sit up there and tell me you want a divorce. And Raynoma is like, this ain't no kind of marriage. What kind of marriage do you leave me on the wedding night to do what you want to do? Okay, Raynoma, you know what? Let me just calm down and explain this to you. Just because we're married, that don't mean nothing. There are certain things that I like to do with my evening that just don't concern you. And so Raynoma gets to screaming and she was like, you sorry bastard, you will not come in this house again at doggone 11 o'clock the next morning. You will not. Fine, Raynoma. If it makes you happy, what time do you want me to come in? You know I have business to handle. You know I have contacts that got to be made. So what time do you want me to come in? And so Raynoma is like, even if it is business that you're handling, there's no reason why you shouldn't be coming into this house before 6 o'clock a.m. And honey say Barry was like, okay, before 6 a.m., right? That's all that matters. Before 6 a.m., you got it. And don't you know his little spiteful Rumpelstiltskin licking behind came in every night after that at 5:59 a.m. like clockwork just to spite her. And so Raynoma is dealing with Barry going out at night doing whatever the F he wants to do when suddenly she starts getting phone calls. The very first phone call she received was a woman on the other end telling her, hey, in case you're wondering what your husband is doing at night, he's coming to see me. And when Raynoma is like, who are you? The girl responds by telling Raynoma, I'm the one that wakes him up out of his sleep so he can make it home to you on time. Because don't he got to be at home right before 6 o'clock? So Raynoma is like, you little evil tramp. But before she can go off, the girl hangs up on her. And so this girl continuously calls Raynoma's house pretty much every night. She doesn't even know this girl's identity because every time Raynoma asks her, the girl don't say nothing or she just hangs up. And for all of you people who watched the Smokey Robinson video, it was in this time period that Smokey Robinson tried to mess around with Raynoma. If you want the details on that, make sure you go watch the Smokey Robinson video. So to move on with the story, Raynoma is just dealing with these nightly phone calls, and the only comfort she really finds is when she's able to go to work, because since she was so powerless and run over at home, she would get her power by how important she was at Motown. And it also brought her comfort that although she knew the hell she was going through, the people at Motown did not know. She was so confident that they didn't know that whenever one of the girl singers were having relationship problems, Raynoma would come to her and be like, oh, don't worry. One day you'll find a man like Barry. A man will treat you the way Barry treats me. Well, baby, one day she said this mess to Motown's secretary, a woman by the name of Jamie Bradford. And honey said Jamie snapped back at her, Oh, baby, I'll take my situation any day. I would never take what Barry do to you. You be upstairs running around trying to make sure everybody is taken care of, and Barry be down there in his office having sex. Janie explained to Raynoma how every day while she was upstairs around 3 p.m., Barry would take this girl named Margaret to one of his offices and take her down, honey. She also explained how when folks came up to Margaret and was like, you know, it ain't right, it's not right the way you doing Barry's wife, baby Margaret would tell them, well, she know, I call her every night and tell her Barry over my house. She know what's up. And the realization hit Raynoma like a ton of bricks. This whole time, this woman had been coming to work acting like everything was fine with her and her husband when everybody that worked in Motown knew that Barry was cheating on her with this Margaret girl. Not only that, knew that Margaret was torturing Raynoma at the end of the night by calling her phone. And what made it worse, Raynoma had been in this Margaret girl's face the whole time as well. And if you're wondering who this Margaret person was, she was not an artist that was signed at Motown. She was actually a cousin to one of the artists that worked for Motown. So she would come up there with her cousin every single day, and this is how she and Barry started messing around. And also, if you're wondering why I'm calling her a girl, Raynoma found out that Margaret was only 17 years old playing these games with her like that. So once all of this realization hits Raynoma of exactly what's going on, Raynoma was like, where is Barry? And Jamie's sitting up there like, oh my God, like what did I just do? And so she was like, you know, I don't know, Miss Ray, I don't know where Barry is. Baby said Raynoma was like, bullshit, you his doggone secretary, you gonna tell me where he at. And so Jamie does tell her. She tells her that Barry has left the office and he's actually gone to the barbershop. Well, that is all that Raynoma needs to hear. Baby, she grabs her keys, she drives over to that barbershop, and she busts through the door and she looks around and she spots Barry sitting in the chair with a perm in his head. And so Raynoma stumps up to him and she's like, let's go. And here go Barry. Ray, what is wrong with you? Can't you see I'm getting my hair done? So she's like, okay, you must want me to do this in front of everybody. So Margaret, you've been messing around behind my back with this little girl Margaret, then got me smiling in her face? Child, Barry got out there see faster than Speed Racer, honey, and ran outside and told his driver that the driver can go on, and he hopped in the car with Raynoma. When they get back to the Motown building, everybody is gone, thankfully, and Barry heads straight upstairs with Raynoma on his heels fussing and cursing at him, and he goes right into the bathroom and starts styling his hair. Raynoma is absolutely beside herself. She's like, do you not hear me talking to you, Barry? Say something. Ain't you gonna explain yourself? Baby, this man didn't explain a thing. He got done styling his hair, picked up the keys, and told Raynoma that he had some business to go handle and he'll be back when he got back. But he didn't come back. Matter of fact, whatever business Barry was handling, he stayed gone for like the rest of the week. And so Raynoma is just in an absolute fog. All those days that Barry is gone, she is laying in the bed, she is crying, her hair is all over her head, and then finally Raynoma was like, you know what? Pull yourself together, Raynoma. And so she gets up, she does her makeup, she does her hair, and then she decides to go shopping. And so Raynoma goes to a boutique so she could buy one of their custom dresses to wear out that night. Raynoma finds a beautiful, sleek dress. Then she walks up to the cashier and she tells her, hey, I want this one, but I'm gonna put it on credit for Motown. I'm Mrs. Berry Gordy, Berry Gordy's wife. Baby said the shopkeeper started yelling out, ma'am, I know you're not Mrs. Berry Gordy, because Berry Gordy just came in here yesterday with his wife, Mrs. Margaret Gordy. So who are you? It took everything in Raynoma's power not to jump over that counter and strangle that woman. And this incident right here was really the last straw for Raynoma. It pushed her to that limit. And so she ended up starting a revenge affair with a guy by the name of Sonny Sanders. And Sonny was very good to her. He treated her very kindly. He was romantic with her. He wanted to spend all of his time with her. However, after seeing him for about 6 or 7 weeks, she started to feel guilty, so she ended up breaking it off. But when Barry ended up getting in bed with her the next night, or I should say the next morning because he came in at 5:59, but anyways, when he ended up getting in bed with her that next time, time, Raynoma wished with everything in her that she would have kept that affair going. Because this man took off his shirt and crawled into bed with her with lipstick marks going all down his back. And so Raynoma is like, you were with Margaret tonight, weren't you? Raynoma, I've told you, whatever this is you have about Margaret, it's all in your head. And Raynoma is like, okay, so I guess the lipstick streaks that is going all down your back, I guess that's all in my head as well, huh? So Barry hops out of bed with a huff and goes and looks in the mirror, and he also sees the lipstick marks. So he finally cannot deny it anymore. Barry says, okay, Raynoma, well, this time I really did go sleep with her, but all the other times I have not been messing with her. And so Raynoma is like, that's fine, Barry. I just want to know, do you love this girl? Y'all, I kid you not, like I always say, y'all can go read the book. This was Barry's response. Well, Raynoma, I mean, I don't know if I love her. I mean, I do, but then I don't. Raynoma, please understand, ever since I was a little boy, I've always wanted my own Cinderella. And Raynoma, with the beauty that she possesses, I just can't let her go. She is just everything to me. Think I'm lying. That man sat there and said that with the facial expressions and all, baby. And Raynoma can't believe it. This man that she's loved and supported and worked herself to death for got the nerve to be smiling, talking about this other woman is his Cinderella in her fate. And in that moment, she was on demon time. And so Raynoma was like, oh, Barry, I'm so happy for you finding your Cinderella, because I too have found my Prince Charming. This guy is actually one of your very good friends, and I didn't want to say anything, but all of those nights when you were out coming home at 5:59, I was actually coming home like 10 or 20 minutes before you. He has been my everything. Like, he has been taking care of my mind and, oh God, my body. And child, before Raynoma could say another word, honey, Barry had that woman by her neck and was slanging her all across that doggone room. Slammed her on the doggone dresser. Then he took her by her legs and yanked her off of the dresser. Then while she was on the floor, he positioned himself to punch her, but he stopped himself. And instead, he took a deep breath and he got his keys off the dresser and he left. And rumor has it, after this situation, Barry just could not stomach being married to Raynoma anymore, but she also did not want to be married to him anymore, and so they started divorce proceedings. But what's crazy is that even after this, Margaret still wanted to pick on Raynoma. Gossip claims Raynoma ended up moving into her own apartment, and Margaret somehow got her phone number and ended up calling Raynoma there. And so Raynoma is like, little girl, why are you still calling my phone? You got what you wanted. Me and Barry are about to divorce. What's your problem? Margaret said, yeah, I got your man now, but there's still one thing you got over me. Baby, I heard you could suck a pickle through a straw. So can you teach me how to suck Barry up the way you used to do it? Woo! Child. Talk about a hot mess. But Margaret must have been right, because allegedly Barry, who wanted so bad to divorce Raynoma, started showing up at Raynoma's apartment, and because Raynoma was still so in love with Barry, she ended up messing around with him. And so now Raynoma found herself being the secret. Now Barry was leaving Margaret to come over to Raynoma's house every night, but she also started to see other men. Well, the folks say one night Raynoma was at home and she had one of those other guys over there, and they had actually just finished making love. Well, Barry shows up to the apartment, and as soon as Barry saw the other man, baby, he went off. What the F you doing here? This is my wife. You need to get up out of here. What you think you doing, man? And so the guy didn't want any problems, and so he gathered up his clothes and he left. And Raynoma found out later that Barry actually contacted the guy and paid him $5,000 so he would leave Raynoma alone. So Raynoma is like, Barry, what are we doing? Well, Ray, just because we're not together right now don't mean I don't want to be with you in the future. All I need for you to do, baby, is just wait on me. That's it. Well, since Barry was kind of playing these mind games on Raynoma, she started to tell herself that the only reason she and Barry were not together was because of Margaret. The folks say one night Raynoma heard about Barry and Margaret going to the bowling alley. And so Raynoma had been wanting to to teach Margaret a lesson this whole time anyway. And so Raynoma got her gun, went down to the bowling alley, and walked straight up to Margaret. Folks say she leaned in and told Margaret, like, let's go outside. So Margaret goes outside, and once they get there, Raynoma takes the gun and she's about to start pistol whipping Margaret, but as soon as she lifts up her hands like this, somebody grabs her hand like this and then picks her up and grabs her around the waist. And turns out the person is Smokey Robinson. And so Smokey is like, run, Margaret, run. So Raynoma is just screaming, let me go, let me go. Why are you doing this, Smokey? Let me go. And Smokey is like, Ray, calm down. You don't want to do nothing to that girl that's going to put you in jail. And so Raynoma is like, you know what? You're right, I'm cool, just let me go. But Raynoma was not cool at all. In actuality, she got in her car and drove over to where Margaret lived. And per the story, Raynoma was going to shoot Margaret first, and then she was going to shoot herself. Thankfully, Margaret ended up not returning that night. This gave Raynoma time to really assess her situation, and she starts talking to herself, and she's like, Raynoma, what are you doing? You're willing to put this girl out of her misery and yourself over Barry. And so she decides that she needs to leave this whole situation alone. She wants to move to another state and just start completely over. And so that next day, Raynoma goes up to Barry and she's like, Barry, I need to ask you for a favor. For a long time ago, you said you would take care of me. So I'm just hoping that you will give me some money to move out of state and also give me some money to find a place to stay. And once they work out the money of the divorce settlement, you could just deduct that amount from whatever you give me. Here go Barry. No, see, I don't give nobody nothing. You want to get some money from me, you're going to have to get that by continuing to work for me. I'm about to open an office in New York. You can be the vice president of that. And if you run it well, then you can get some money from me. But little did she know, Barry didn't offer her this job as a means for her to make money. He actually offered her this job out of spite to punish her for trying to leave him. As soon as Raynoma got there and got the office all set up and hired everybody she needed and started to look for talent, Barry pulled funding from the office. He wouldn't give her the contacts she needed in order to book studio time for anybody that they signed. He wouldn't do anything. And so Raynoma is so desperate to keep this afloat, because that's the only way Barry is going to continue to provide for her lifestyle, that she basically does the equivalent of, taking money out of Motown's bank account in order to cover the expenses, but she doesn't tell Barry about it. And baby, don't you know the day after she does this, the FBI shows up at her office? Raynoma is like, what is all of this about? We've been told that you've been stealing money and property from Motown Records. Baby, they arrest her, they arrest some of the people working with her, and she ends up calling Barry from the jail cell and telling him everything that's happening and how she did everything she did out of desperation. And Barry tells her, Raynoma, Ray, listen to me. I don't give a F what you're saying. You decided to steal from me so you can sit in that jail cell and you can rot. Click. Raynoma sits in jail for at least 5 days, and then on the 5th day, Berry Gordy's lawyers come up to the jail and they tell Raynoma that Barry is willing to get her out of jail, but she needs to agree that whatever he said about taking care of her for the rest of her life all that long ago, she needs to forget about that. And they told her the divorce settlement where she was trying to get half, she needed to forget about that too. All that Barry was offering her was $1,300 a month for 10 years and then $150 a month for child support for their son Kerry. She could take it and get out of jail today, or she could deny it and go to court and go to prison for stealing from Motown Records. And all Raynoma could do was agree to the terms in front of her, and so she signed her name and they got her out of jail that same day. And after this, y'all, it truly seemed like Raynoma was truly and fully done with Barry. She didn't speak to him for that whole next year. She actually ended up getting remarried to a guy by the name of Ed Singleton. She even had 2 children with Ed Singleton. But then in late 1970, Raynoma ended up receiving a call from Berry Gordy. When Raynoma answered, Barry was on the other line frantic. Raynoma, baby, I need you, just like the old days when we used to work together, when we were so in love. I need for you to be a chaperone for one of my singers, Ray. Like, I don't trust anybody else with this singer. You the only one that got my back. And instead of Raynoma deciding to hang up in his face, she is like, Barry, I'll do it, but you're gonna have to pay me good for doing this. And so Raynoma packs up her husband and children and she moves her family back to Detroit. And when she gets there, she is shocked to find that the new artist that Barry wants her to chaperone is his latest love interest, Diana Ross. And anybody from a mile away could see clearly that this was basically just a humiliation ritual, because Barry most likely found out Raynoma had got remarried, that she was happy, and now he was doing something to humiliate her. But Raynoma couldn't see it. And so she agrees to chaperone Diana, and then she shows up on Diana's tour for her first day of work. Raynoma, who remembers when Diana was just a little teen girl who used to call her Miss Ray when she just started out singing for Motown, thought that Diana Ross was that same type of person. And so Raynoma is like, "Hi Diana, it's so nice to see you again. Barry wanted me to be your chaperone. I cannot wait for us to work together. I'm very excited about it." And Diana goes, "Oh, look Raynoma, I understand that this is your first day and you're kind of getting used to the way things are run around here. That whole thing over there where you called me Diana, unacceptable. No ma'am, my name is Miss Ross and you will address me as such." Oh no, she didn't. No, this heifer didn't, but baby, yes she did. Raynoma is absolutely taken aback by this behavior, but she's like, "Oh, okay, no problem, Miss Ross, I'll do that for you." And she went on to work for Diana while Diana made Raynoma's life a living hell. Baby said Diana would call Barry and say, "Barry, Raynoma was supposed to have my gown laid out with my shoes up under it, and because she didn't have my shoes there, I was late walking on stage. Barry, I specifically told Raynoma that the lighting on stage was not working in my favor. Why come when I walk back on stage, the lighting is still the same?" And every single time, Barry Gordy would call Raynoma and he would chew her out. "Raynoma, if I would have known that you were going to be jealous of Diana and how big of a star she was, I wouldn't have got you back here on this tour. If I would have known that you were so bad at doing your job, I wouldn't be paying you like I'm paying you." And then in the midst of all of this pettiness and cattiness that was going on, one day Diana Ross called Raynoma into her dressing room and basically started talking to Raynoma like they were best of friends. And so Raynoma is like, "Diane, girl, I was wrong about you. You are cool." And then she was like, "Shoot, we get along so well, we ought to go on our own and write our own music and record our own music." And Diana is laughing and kikiing. "Girl, Raynoma, you is crazy, honey." Baby, why come the very next day, Barry calls Raynoma telling us, "I need you to come to the office right now." And when Raynoma gets there, Barry is standing up with his arms folded and Diana is sitting down in the chair just looking straight out the window. And so Raynoma is like, "Yes, you asked for me to come in?" "Yes, I did. What's all this I hear about you trying to steal Diane away from Motown? She told me about how you trying to put these big ideas in her head about her writing her own music and recording with somebody else. What's this about? You trying to steal my artist?" And Raynoma is like, "Barry, we were just having a conversation. Diana, tell him." Honey said Diana didn't even shift her eyes from the window, baby. Just sat there looking and didn't say a mumbling word. And so Raynoma is like, "Barry, I swear to God, I was just talking." "Save it, Raynoma. You are really something else. And we cannot have somebody like you working for this company. You are fired." Brought that woman back for a humiliation ritual, just like I said. Throughout the rest of the 1970s, their son Kerry was around 19, 20 years old, and he wanted to start his own band called Apollo. And Raynoma is like, "Well, that's fine. I'll call your dad Barry, and I'm pretty sure he'll make arrangements for you, get you in the studio, all that good stuff." Raynoma called Barry, and Barry promptly told her that he had no intentions of signing Kerry. He just didn't have the money for that. But when it came to Rockwell, Margaret, old curly head, big head son, you sat up there and done his song, had Michael Jackson singing and everything, talking about "I always feel like somebody watching me." But she still wouldn't completely leave Barry alone. And by the 1980s, Raynoma lost her husband. With nothing to do and nowhere left to turn, she ended up going back and working for Barry at Motown again. But this time Barry told Raynoma that she would serve him better if she ended up working under Barry's brother, Donald. Well, I guess seeing Raynoma at work every day made Barry feel like he wanted that old thing back. So he started coming into Raynoma's office and flirting with her like they were high school kids again. And one night he even asked her to go on a date with him, which Raynoma does. Well, after the date, Barry is like, Raynoma, why don't you come back to my house with me? And she does that as well. Raynoma is like, finally, I'm about to get my man back. It was worth the wait. Especially when that next morning came around and Barry told Raynoma, hey, I don't want you to go back home. I want you to stay here with me. And so Raynoma calls her parents and she makes arrangements for her kids to stay with them for a little while, and she continued to stay with Barry day and night at his home. But gossip claims about 1 month had passed and Raynoma basically told Barry, Barry, I've really enjoyed myself, but I gotta go see my children. And Barry tells her, I understand, Raynoma, go check up on your kids, and then when you're done, maybe we can make some arrangements where all of y'all can move in with me. So Raynoma flies out to her parents' house, and she is probably there for about 3 days when she receives a phone call. And on the other line is Barry's brother, Donald. And Donald starts asking Raynoma, you haven't been at work for the last month. Where have you been? And Raynoma is like, Donald, I thought you knew. I've been with Barry this whole time. Well, be that as it may, you being with Barry doesn't cancel out your work that you were supposed to be getting done. So you're fired. Raynoma is like, Donald, what? You know what? Don't worry about it. I'm about to call your brother because he's the boss of all of this anyway. And so he'll straighten this out. Honey gets on the phone to call Barry to tell him what happened, and Barry responds, well, he's right. You were spending all your time with me, but you should have been there getting your work done. So, you're fired. There's nothing I can do for you. Click. I do know that after Raynoma was fired this final time, she never went back to work for Motown. In fact, Raynoma took all of the knowledge and everything she learned up under Berry Gordy, and she started to try and form her own record label. And one of the first artists that she signed and took up under her wing was the singer Chileee. But see, Raynoma messed around and did what she always does. Mixed business and pleasure together. Honey Chileee wasn't nothing but about 20-something years old and started putting the grand slam on Raynoma. She became so hooked on his weenus and fell so deeply in love with him that when Chileee ended up having a drug problem, Raynoma didn't want to admit it. It wasn't until Chileee stole all her money from her and even stole her car that she finally had to face the fact that he had a problem. But even then, what she tried to do was get him help, get him into a rehab. But unfortunately, Chileee ended up passing away before he could ever get clean. And after Chileee, it seems like Raynoma pretty much just let go of the whole music industry. Or if she didn't, I do not know what exactly she did next. All I can tell you is that she mostly faded into the background until her death of brain cancer on November the 11th, 2016, when she was 79 years old. This is the end of the old Hollywood scandalous tale of Miss Raynoma Gordy Singleton. Please like this video. If you are new here, please subscribe, and I will see you guys with another video soon. Bye.